We can't hear you, Irene.
Oh, thank you, Ify. I was muted. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is another mental resilient workshop, but we are celebrating Black History Month. And today's topic is titled Cultural Identity and Diaspora. We picked that topic because of what we are celebrating today, which is the Black History Month. We would like to, we brought like speakers that will do justice to that topic because of where we are at the moment and what is going on in our community. There's a lot of suicide cases. There's a lot of Black people going into depression, and I thought that we should continue this conversation because we've been doing this for the past 2 years, sponsored by the Big Lottery Fund, and with or without funding, I felt like we should continue this conversation, getting people to know more about what they should do in time like this or when they are faced with difficulty. As I said, we picked this topic, cultural identity and diaspora, because of the research that a lot of people can go into depression because they are trying or want to be what they are not and forgetting where they are from, their culture and their identity. We've got two wonderful speakers today, and I will say a bit of their background before they take the stage. But before then, as I said earlier, a bit of house rule. We want everybody to stay muted. And this event is being recorded as well. If you're not comfortable being on camera, because it will be broadcast on other social media platforms, like it will be on our Facebook, our Instagram, and maybe websites. So if you're not comfortable being on all those platforms, leave your camera off. And yeah, that's about it, about the house rule. So as we kick off today, we want to, like, I would say, loosen up a bit. And there's always something to be won. And if you participate in these activities that we want to go in now, which will be, please let's use, first of all, before we go into the activity, feel free to introduce yourself in using the comment section, that's the chat. So you put in your name, what you're representing, and who you are, anything you want us to know about, because we also use this platform to network. So like you're here today, people should know who you are, what you do, and what you're about as well. So please, let's use the chat button to tell people who you are and what you do. That will be really helpful. Let's share. Let's share. As I said, this platform is not just for us to do what we're doing today. It's for us to meet new people and network with like minds as well, and share our business contacts. So please, let's use these few minutes to put in the chat. Let me see what I've got in here now. Let me read it out. Oh, okay. Anaya Kamara, entrepreneur, says, "Good evening, everyone. I am in a public transport." Okay, for that reason, she cannot speak, but she can listen. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. And thank you. I want to thank everyone that have joined at this time as well. We'll be starting very, very soon. We are just doing introduction. For those that just joined now, please, can you introduce yourself using the chat? Let's know who you are. Adenike, please, can you introduce yourself in the chat if you can? Rosie Brown, please do the same. Introduce yourself in the chat if you can. And every other person on the platform, please introduce yourself. I'm waiting for more introduction in the chat so I could get to read people's, I would say, profile or who they are. And I know some few persons here that I could read their profile, but if you're joining us for the first time, you want people to know who you are, please do use the chat to introduce yourself. Good evening to you all. I'm in a public transport. Okay, And I hope you can hear us. Yeah. Okay. Auntie Kate said, good evening all. My name is Auntie Kate. She's one of our speakers here today. Okay, yeah, someone say, yeah, they can hear me. Thank you, Adenike, that you can hear me. We've got Vicky Olawoye here. She's the CEO of Divis Creation, Anything Craft. She's the right person to speak to. We've got Kate Analua, who is one of our speakers. Anything, if you want to join politics, you want to know more about politics in the UK, she's the best person to speak to as well. We have Anaya Kamara. She's a hairdresser and she has a platform where you can connect with her, which is in the chat. If you want your hair to be done anywhere in London, she can send someone to fix it up. That's about Anaya Kamara. Okay, yes, she said, yes, she can hear me. Thank you for joining, Ma. I appreciate you. So the icebreaker that we're going to go in now is something that relates to the topic that we're doing today, which is cultural identity and diaspora. So please, okay, someone said, good evening, everyone. My name is Dora. I am registered pediatric nurse and a business analyst. Wow, nice meeting you, Ma. And thanks for joining. So a quick one aside, the icebreaker we're going to do, there's always prize to be won. So please, I will encourage you to take part in this. The topic today is cultural identity and diaspora. I want the fastest finger to type in the chat. What's your cultural identity? So type anything in your chat. What makes you different? I know we have people from Sierra Leone here. We have Nigeria. When we say cultural identity, what do you understand by the word cultural identity? Don't worry, there's no wrong and right answer here. Just put anything you feel like. What's your cultural identity? There's a lot of answers to that. So I might say that as many answers that you can put in, that might stand you the chance of winning this segment. So I'm waiting to read. Let's put it in the chat. If you feel you want to say it out, it's still fine. But if you cannot speak where you are, please put it in the chat. Oh, wow. I've got an answer. It says the way I dress up. That is her cultural identity. I will say my mother's tongue. Okay, Adenike, Adenike, okay, Victoria says food. I just jumped Adenike's one. She said, it's your personal identity. Yeah, that summarizes it. And Rube, I must not jump this one. This says, Rusen Education says your country of origin, your culture, my way of life, my language, and general aspiration. Okay, that's a big one. And Anaya Kamara says your whole character and belief system. And Dora says your religion. Okay, so everyone that have written something in the chat have said their answers are all correct. So I think for everyone here, I'm going to spin the name later and we'll give the answer to the lucky person. Everyone, the answer is 100% correct. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. We're all engaging. I think everyone here has actually answered the question, which is very good. So we're all active, we're all here. So without wasting much time, I think the second speaker is not here yet. So, but we've got the first speaker in the house, but I don't know how ready is she. Unfortunately, fortunately, I'll be calling her now. I think she would have loved to go later, but she's here now. So let's utilize the opportunity for her being here at this time. But before I call her, I would like, for those that don't know her, to get to know her, I will read a bit of her profile. It's an honor to have her here, I must confess. When I contacted her in terms of what we want to do, her calendar was quite full, and she actually squeezed us in to be here today. So we have Kate Analue, Councillor Kate, or she's a chief as well, although she will be loved to be called by Auntie Kate, but let's give respect to whom is due. We have Councillor Kate Analue, who has worked with NHS for 40 years. Hence, she has a wealth of knowledge in many of social health issues that are prevalent in the community, coupled with over 10 years experience in local government politics. As I said earlier, if you want to join politics, she's the right person to speak with. She's bagged several awards, which I cannot mention because of time, but I will mention this one. In 2007, she was conferred with Honorary Freedom of London Borough of Enfield for her long value and outstanding contribution to the community. She is the first person in the UK to be twice mayor of London Borough of Enfield. So in 2012 and 2013, she was a mayor, and later she also became a mayor as well in 2019 2020. So that's a big one, and she's written 2 books. She's an author as well. She's featured in different platforms, from newspaper to TV to radio, and as I said, we're really honored to have her here. Let me stop here because the profile is quite long. It's an honor to have Councillor Kate in the house. Over to you, Ma, and thank you again for being here this evening. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Irene. Sometimes I wonder who you're talking about. I'm just ordinary Auntie Kate. Can I say good evening to everyone here? Thank you for coming up. I know this is an important, month where we expect all of us to be active. I always talk about Black History Month, and I always say that we don't have to celebrate it just 1 month. We should be celebrating, our Blackness and our culture and everything every blessed day. And this is what we should aim for, so that we don't put everything together to do it in 1 month. Black History Month is something that helps us to go back and think about ourselves, about how far we've come, and what we've achieved, and what our previous activists and those who fought for our life and for our rights, what they have put in this. I'm not going to lecture anybody about Black History Month because I know we all have an idea. So I'll probably just go straight on the cultural identity, which Irene, who is a workaholic, wants us to talk about. First of all, I have to continue to say to Irene, well done for all the work that you're doing. If I started as young as you were, I know that probably I would achieve more than I think I've achieved. So I'm so happy that you have taken that step to do this, to start this as early in your young years as possible, and that given opportunity, not only just to you, but to the people the young people you work for. So well done. Yeah, I noticed also here, you asked for the ice breaking, you asked us you know, how do we identify who we are, our culture? How do you identify that? It's very difficult, but everybody has said something. And like Irene said, everything that you said is everybody said is correct. The reason why I chose the way I dress up, because I remember when I came to this country years and years and years ago, long before some of you were born, I used to go to Marks and Spencer. I love their skirt, I love their blouse. And that's what I always like to dress myself. And then also, I didn't notice, our African colleagues, dressing up any other way other than skirt and blouse or dress. But as time goes on, people begin to be aware of who they are and where they come from. And I think the ice breaking for me was 2012-13, when I was, conferred as the mayor of Enfield. And I was thinking, what am I going to wear? And then me, you're an African. Why don't you dress in your own costume? And I said to my daughter, what do you think? She said, yeah, mommy, why not? So I dressed up in African attire, and I even had gele on. I tell you, it was just amazing. And for me, it was the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. And since then, when I came into the chambers, you didn't have to tell anybody where this lady come from. So without talking, without anything, I've just immediately identified who I am, where I come from. And since then, a lot of the mayors, female mayors, all of them, they dress up in African or where they come from, their attire. And I think that is very, very important. And then also, what makes me quite happy as well is that if you look now, all day, people that dress up, if you go to parties, 3/4 or more than that, all dress up from where they come from. So that means
wait, someone is coming to meet you. I'm in the meeting. Just wait, someone is coming. My colleague is coming to see you.
Prince, can you please mute yourself?
Stay muted.
Thank you. That means that we're not ashamed of where we come from, and we want to dress up and say, this is who I am. And that is number one. We mentioned our food. If you go back again in history, African foods were not served when there is an event. You probably see Indian food, but you never see African food. It was never served. And why is it not served? And here we have fantastic, nutritious food. And if you're proud of who you are and proud of yourself, then you are happy to exhibit what you actually ingest into your stomach. And we began to have restaurants that display and advertise our food. And I go back again during my mayoral time, I said to them, what I want to be served on that day is jollof rice. That is typical African food, the way we cook it, not just, Caucasians cook rice, but they don't cook it that way. So that again, telling them this is my food, and I value that. Because the one thing is obvious. If you deny yourself of anything that is part of you, what you're doing is you're trying to change the culture and the value of who you are. And what is our value? Our value is family closeness, community bonding, and solidarity within ourselves and within our culture, for our culture. That is extremely important for us. And if you look back, in those days, those that were enslaved, they were robbed of these values. They were robbed of their culture, the way they dress, and the food they eat. Hence, when you come to Black Americans, you will not see them cooking our food because they've been robbed of that. They've been robbed of their value and who they are. And now they have to become, not only that they were given their slave master's name, they were also, made that their food is what they will eat. Because obviously, either they don't find the food that they used to have in Africa, or they were not even allowed to cook that. It's no wonder that when somebody robs you of who you are, what happens to you? You begin to doubt yourself, and that can affect you, not only just mentally, but socially, and in a way that it has affected all of us here. Our young people, they have lost their identity. They are finding it difficult to believe that this is who they are. And unfortunately, they cannot fit into the society here. And we, the parents, also are not able to give our children or give them what belongs to them. That is the value of where we come from, because that's their root. And it is left for us to actually bring them up in that manner so that they don't only just go to internet and read about it. They have to say, oh, my mother, or my dad, my parents, my grandparents taught me this. And to know more about it, then they can now go to internet and enforce what their parents and grandparents have taught them. These things you might not realize, but it caused a lot of problem for our young people. Because if you don't know who you are, or you've been told here, you might be Black British, but how many of you are accepted? So that means in our language, you're not a home animal or a bush animal. So you belong to nowhere. And this is where I think that it's we parents who have actually, indirectly aided the problem we have when it comes to our culture and our identity. If we thank, those during the time of the Black movement who have helped a lot to make sure that some of the things that we have lost during slavery, that we are beginning to bring them back. And how did they do it? By, things like a magazine, journal, publishing houses, theater groups, and institutions. These are the places where, for example, in theater, where we try to, in a drama, to recreate what it is to be Black and what it is to be original. And also our history, because without the Black activists, we would have lost everything entirely. If you look at the slave masters, what they've done, they even robbed the language away from them. So if you look at American Blacks, the way they speak is because of the way the masters have, kind of make sure that they lose their identity and who they are. And this hasn't helped us a lot, helped us at all. But we have to continue to be glad and to be thankful to the activists who have kept our history, alive by not only celebrating individuals, but also continue to talk about our history, to write about it, to make us practice it, and to make everybody to be grateful and be proud of where you come from. Dress in the way that you see your robbery from wherever you come from, Jamaica, Ghana, Nigeria, Africa, wherever you come from, be proud to dress up that way, because that is what helps you. It's not just only your language, because it's only when you speak, then the people know, yes, your language, probably from there. But the way when you are in your house and you dress up and come out, as soon as you come out, yes, this is a Black woman, a Black man, and this is how she or he identifies him or herself. I think this is the thing that we should go back to. And also, whatever you do, people always ask me, Auntie Kate, how did you do this? How did you do that? There's nothing different from me and you all, except to be proud of who you are. I'm very proud to be a Black woman, and I'm very proud to say that whatever door is open, I will go in. Whatever door that is closed, I will knock and make sure that it's open for me. Because there must be something there that is absolutely great for a Black person like me to enter. If we sit down and continue to say, yeah, they don't like us, they don't do this, they don't do that, you're actually, alienating yourself from going forward. Because at that moment, you've excluded yourself because you think, oh, well, they think I can't do this, so I won't bother, or they are all Caucasian, I won't bother. No, for me, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a human being who has come into life to hunt, and I will hunt anywhere. As far as I'm concerned, there is no closed door. All the doors are open, because the one that seems closed, I will knock. And when I get in there, I will try to do the things that I'm going to do that is going to help me to aspire and also to transfer this to the younger ones, or even to those who are in the same age group like me but haven't had that opportunity. This is something that we always do. We always think that because, yes, I'm Black, we already shut the door before we even knock. You should not have that. You should have a positive mind all the time, because that positive mind will help you to move forward, to achieve, because if you look at our young people are harassed by the police. And then what they do before even anything, they've already formed that mind of, oh yes, the police, they don't like us. And before you know it, if they probably ask a question, and you use the attitude of, they don't like me, for that reason, I'm going to use that kind of attitude, then you get into trouble. That's the thing. So I think it's very important for us to be positive about ourselves and be clear of yourself on what you're doing. I can tell you, for example, some years ago, I bought a car. I haven't, I just bought it, and there was the second day I was riding it in Enfield, and I was stopped by a police. First of all, whose car is this? It's terrible. And this, I can say to you, when I say it's just maybe about 15 years ago, so that's not too long. So really, when you look at it, 15 years might be too long, but again, it's not. To ask me whose car it is. If I ask him, I ask myself, he was education, it won't stop. But again, that didn't stop. I said, yes, it's my car. And then my daughter was with me when I was about to give him food. My daughter said, no, mommy, just answer straight question. I said, yes, it's my car. And I said, and I work for it. So if I was alone, probably speak the way I feel, of course, they could easily manhandle me. Okay, so really, or mishandle me. So this is really why it is important for us to not only watch how we speak, or be careful of when we are, kind of confronted with something that we think is a difficult issue. We need to see how we can calm ourselves. Because one thing that is they do is they see us as aggressive. And that is why we end up, a lot of our young people end up, you know, in the police station there, because people think, yes, you are aggressive, and whatever thing you say, they turn it the other way. So generally, I think we should be positive about ourselves. We should believe in ourselves. We should believe that the person I am, I should be proud of the person I am, and try to achieve as much as possible what any other person would have achieved, you know, without thinking that I'm being marginalized, because the opportunity is there for everyone. We don't get it all, but we have to try. And as you're trying, especially at work, it's difficult for us to get promotions, but that doesn't stop you aiming. You continue to aim. You continue to aim. If you don't get it there, you might go out, you know, apply outside. So it's all these things that makes it quite difficult for us to get what we want. And the majority of our young people, or men and women, we end up quite depressed, reason because we feel that we're not only marginalized, but we are not allowed to aspire up to where we want. And sometimes, as you can see in politics, what is happening at the moment, you know, Kwashi has just been, you know, fired. True to know, none of his fault, but as you can see, all the blame, you know, is laid upon him. He did what the boss wanted, but at the end of it, look at the result. See, if you look at it, he's the first ever Black person that got up to that post. And now it looks like, oh, we can't do the job. But sometimes they set us to fail, but we never give up. I wouldn't want to be in his shoe. However, you know, we are very strong. We got that thick skin that makes us to never give up. So whatever area that you're working and trying, never give up. Because I do believe that every single one of us has a destiny. The destiny is in the palm of your hand, and it's for you to continue to nourish, and you get to where you want to get to. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you. That's really insightful. Is there anyone that wants to ask Auntie Kate any question? You can feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat if you cannot speak. But before then, I want to say thank you, Ma, for being here, in finding time out of your busy schedule to be here. We appreciate you, Ma. I have a question for you, but let me give other people a chance to ask questions. If you have a question, please put it in the chat and I will read it out. And while I wait, because of time, I will go for my question. My question is to the topic today, identity. I would want you to throw more light on who is to blame when kids here, African kids, kids that are not, I would say people that are not British, from every other background, who is to blame when they are not doing what they're supposed to do? Some people said it's the society, some people said it's their parents, some people said it's the school. Ma, who will you say we are to blame when there is misconduct or antisocial behavior with the young people that we're seeing today? Who is to blame, Ma?
I mean, that is very straightforward. You know, why should I blame the teacher? Why should I blame the society? Well, before the society and before the teacher, who did the child come in contact with? Isn't it the parents? The children came in contact with the parents first and foremost, before, you know, they get to age 3, before they start going to nursery and so forth, and before they get into school. So I think, you know, charity begins at home. And I think, you know, that it is for us, it's for parents, you know, start to nurture your child and start to teach your child, you know, the right way to do things. And try to also, as they get older, you start to tell them about things that are happening outside. You start to talk to them about things like making good friends and so forth. I mean, I have 4 children. The youngest was only 18 months when my husband passed on. So I was left with 4 kids to bring up, 2 girls and 2 boys. If they went wayward, I wouldn't blame the society. I would blame myself, because I know how I was brought up. I was brought up in a way that you have to respect my elders. I have to be at home at a certain time. I have to do my homework. And I have to respect, my parents as well. And if I start with that at home, I make sure that I continue to do that. And I can see that it works because I'm a grandmother. And I watch my daughter talking to her daughter, who's nearly 7, said, you don't do this, you don't do that. This is what you do. You must do, and I thought, if all parents are doing this, why should our children misbehave or, do things that would get them into problem? So I think for me, I have the parents to start to, blame first before I now blame the school and then before the society. Because, and also it's nice to be open to children as well. Be open to them by saying, this is what we do. If your teacher tells you this, when you come back, let me know, so that if there's anything untold that the teacher must have said, if he or she comes home and tells me, I can confront the teacher, I can confront the teacher. And it's important as well for you to know the friends of your children and to know their parents. Very, very important. What I did is, all my children, I always want to find out who is their best friend in the class or in the school. And then I make friends with the parents of their friend. So that things like after school, when they're talking to their friend, I'm talking to the parents of their friend. So we become friends as well. Rather than tearing those child apart, I become their friend. And what we do is, I speak to the parents and say, shall we take them out to the cinema? Shall we do this and shall we do that? So while we're doing those things together, those children are together. However, if I notice that the child is of no good, I will tell my child, I say, I don't really like your association with that social person. And I did that once with my eldest daughter in the street that we live. And I could see by this time they were teenagers. I just called her and I said, I don't really like your association with this young lady. And she said to me, why? I said, I can't tell you, but I don't like her association. And I think my daughter must have told her friend, and then the young girl must have told her mom. Her mom confronted me one day and said to me, oh, you think your child is better than mine, and so forth and so on. I didn't say anything to her. But you won't believe it. It was less than 2 years. I saw this young girl with a pram. She's pregnant and she's carrying her because I didn't want to express what I saw. But I just said, I don't want you going out with this person. Because at her very young age, whenever I passed her, I could see her in different places with just, your boys. And she ended up pregnant. So you need to know the friends of your children and also make friendship with their parents. So that even if they want to stay over or want to say that I'm with social person, you call the parents and say, oh, John is coming to you. Is that all right? Or shall we, they want to go out to the cinema. What do you think? Shall we all go? You make it like a family, extended family thing, so that you don't stop the child from making friends, so that they still maintain their good friend. And even on holidays, they're still going out with their friend to different places, to the park, to the zoo and all these things. These are the things that we did. And I make sure that my children retain their friends by also me being friends to their parents, so that we can, can also monitor those children as well.
Thank you so much, Ma, for that answer. I actually asked the question because of what I personally have seen in the community when children misbehave and they blame it on the society. I agree to your answer, to be sincere, like everything starts from the home. So as parents, we should do all we can so that our children don't lose their identity, because I think it's when they are trying to copy the other person. I know there's peer pressure, but before it gets to that level, whatever they've been taught at home is something that they will grow with, they will live with. Like today, there are a lot of things I do. I grew up with my grandmother. There's a lot of things I do. I always remember what my grandmother says or what all the training she has inculcated in me. So I think it's still applicable to everyone. Like, I know there are young parents here. I'm saying this not because I've raised a lot of children, but I'm just saying that your identity remains with you. How you're brought up at home remains with you. And we should all do our best for our kids to keep their identity, so that they will not lead to either depression or suicide. There's link between these two things that we're discussing today. Why are people behaving, why they are behaving? Because they want to be who they are not. Once again, we want to thank you, Ma, for coming, and you'll still be here for a while, but if there's any question, I can relate it to you later and share it on our platform. We've got the second speaker here, which we're honored to have as well. She's no other person but the professor of law school, Bradford. I'll read a bit of her profile because it's quite long as well. Professor Ngobu Emese, hope I got the name right. She's a professor. She's done different research focused on environmental law and politics, with particular interest in regulation and enforcement, environment justice, corporate social responsibility, and interface between environmental, religion, and international economic law. She's done a lot. She's won different awards as well. She's someone that God-fearing. She has her own family, a lovely boy she's got, and I think she will be able to do more or throw more light on this topic that we're discussing today, which is cultural identity and diaspora. And as I said, we picked this topic because we want to use it to celebrate Black History Month, which we're in this month. So I will stop here and hand over the imaginary mic to Professor. Over to you, Ma.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Irene, for that kind introduction. Irene is my sister. Oh, I know her very well. She's trying to pronounce my name. Okay. So hello, everyone. And first of all, let me just say good evening, Ma, to my big auntie. I don't know that you remember we met at Kensington Palace last year, I think in December, sometime around that time.
Yeah,
so
yes.
Honor to meet you again, Ma. Thank you very much for those very insightful presentation. So, what do I have to say? Identity in the diaspora. It's a big topic, and it's really one that is very dear to my heart because, as Irene said, I work at the university, and that means that I come across lots and lots and lots of young people as a matter of course. And a lot of those young people come from minority ethnic backgrounds, and particularly from African, Nigerian backgrounds. And so it is something that one confronts on a day-to-day basis, you know, in terms of identity. So what is identity? Why is it so important? And when you look at the dictionary, it simply says identity is who you are. It's as simple as that. What is my identity? And we all have different identities. It depends on what we are looking at. So if you ask me, what is my identity? I'm a woman, you know, that's my identity. I'm a woman. What is your identity? I'm a Nigerian. What is your identity? I'm a mother. What is your identity? I'm a lecturer. Whatever it is. So identity is who you are. And who you are is what you feel comfortable. It should be something that you feel comfortable in. Because you wake up every day to who you are. You look in the mirror, you see who you are. And ordinarily, we expect that everyone is sure and safe in their identity. Because from day one, when you were born, first of all, when you are born in the hospital, the doctor says, is he a boy? You ask the midwife or doctor, whoever, is he a boy or is he a girl? You know, it's a girl, hi, it's a boy. So your gender, usually, historically, would have been formed, your identity as a girl or a boy, you know. In terms of ethnicity, it's one of those things where we say you cannot hide it. Your skin goes before you. You know, it's one of those hidden, it's not a hidden characteristic that you have. So as you step into a room, are you a black man? Are you a white woman? Are you Asian? So that's who you are. You step in with that identity. For a lot of us, me, for instance, I grew up in an environment in which I was very safe and secure in that identity. I was born, bred, buttered, eaten in Nigeria before I came to the UK. So I knew who I was. I was a woman. I was a Nigerian woman from the South. And a lot of what that means, what your identity means, are social constructs. What does it mean to be a woman, for instance? So from the day you were born, and I heard my big auntie talking about, you know, the things that you're taught, respect, you know, this is how you greet. And you're not the only one greeting that way. Everybody's greeting that way. You know, everybody is saying, come, auntie. Everybody's calling everybody else auntie. So there is a certain monolithic approach to how we do things here. Yeah. So culturally, we understand that elders are to be respected. Culturally, we understand that certain things, certain behaviors, this is how we do things. Culturally, we understand that this is what we eat and it is okay. Yeah. So I didn't grow up feeling ashamed about what I ate. You know, I didn't have to go to school thinking, should I say I ate eba or I didn't eat eba? Yeah. Should I say I ate rice or I didn't eat rice? What did you eat for breakfast? I didn't have to feel uncomfortable expressing what I ate with my friends, because that is what they would eat. If I say I ate akara, they know what akara means. I don't have to explain. I wasn't different. And then we come to the diaspora. The big question why this is, identity as a topic is big. Even in a monolithic culture, there are issues around identity. But when we come to the diaspora, the problem is that similarity of experience, similarity of identities, similarity of cultures changes. So your child may be the only child that is Black in his school, or one of a few that is Black in their school. So first and foremost, there is already a disruption in the child's sense of who he is, sense of self. Who am I? Because he's looking at who he or she is relative to the environment that he is seeing. Okay? So at home, his parents talk in a particular way. His parents eat particular kinds of food. He goes to school. Everybody else eats something different. He goes to the school canteen. None of the things the parents eat is in the school canteen. Everything there is different. But he's never had those conversations with his parents. The parents haven't told him what quiche is. So they ask him, do you want quiche? And then he's looking, what is quiche? He's embarrassed to ask, what is quiche? But if that child had grown up in his or her own culture, that would be something that would be normal. He wouldn't have to think. He wouldn't have to, when they ask you, what do you want to eat? He can say what I want to eat. And why I give these examples is because sometimes we underestimate the conflict that our children live in. They invariably live in two cultures, one in the house, and I'm taking for granted that we are all doing what my big auntie mommy told us to do, teach your culture, and all of that is correct. But we also need to understand that in the diaspora, your child doesn't only live at home, and that there are other cultures that that child is exposed to in the diaspora. And that in the diaspora, especially if you're not living in an area that is particularly, that have a lot of people from the same culture, he may be unique. Or even if they do, his culture may not be the dominant one, the one that is respected. And so invariably, there is a crisis of identity. Who am I? We find kids who are one person at home and another in the school. Because the person they are at home, if they bring that whole person to school, if you haven't already taught them how to bring that whole person to school, then they begin to hide. But remember that identity is who you are. So imagine going somewhere every day and not bringing your whole person to that place, trying to be something that you are not. So I am a woman, I'm trying to be a man. I will keep failing. And the more I fail, the more emotionally, mentally, I feel I am less than. I am not good enough. But am I truly failing? Am I truly not good enough? And so I lay that background to help us to sort of put ourselves in our kids' places as we explore this issue of identity in the diaspora. One of the things I find out is that first and foremost, we need to give our children, I think that's what Mommy was saying, we need to give our children a very strong sense of who they are. Who is your child? From when they are small, who do you tell them they are? What are the values we inculcate in them? And do we tell them why? So for instance, if you're Yoruba, you say greet in this way. This is how we greet our elders. Do you explain why? So that your child understands if somebody else confronts him, why he is doing what he does and why that is okay, why that is fine. How do we talk to our children about who we are? If every day all your child heard growing up is, Nigeria, Black people, who caused us? God forbid, corruption, they will kill you. If that is all your child hears about where you came from, when the child goes to school and people tell your child, you're actually a monkey or you came from trees, what do you think the child is going to believe? A friend of mine, a while back now, over 15 years, I think that somehow affected our friendship, to be honest. He went to Nigeria. We were colleagues in Nigeria. We knew each other's families. And he came back. Both our kids were we had kids about the same age, round about 10, 11 then, or 10, about 10. And he was joking. I said, he came back. And I said, oh, and he said, oh, you know what? My son was asking me, so did you have to live in a tree? And I was laughing. And I said, you were laughing? Your child asked you, you went home and you came back. And your child asked you if you lived in a tree and you were laughing. Why were you laughing? Why was that funny? I said, first, what that tells me is you failed. You failed him in that you've never told him what your home is like. You've never given him a sense of what home is. So he's hearing what people have been telling him about what Africa is. The stupid films that they show about Africa. And you have gone and you have come. You don't ever take him home because it is too unsafe. And he hears that. And then tomorrow you are wondering why that child doesn't want to do anything Africa related. Why they want to be something else. Why they begin to create subcultures about them and who they are. So what does your child know about your home? What does your child know about what it means to be Black? Have we educated ourselves enough about what it means to be Black so that we can give ourselves, our children, that sense of dignity, respect in who they are? Do they know African history? Or is all they know about Africa the fact that we were sold as slaves and we are all coming to the UK because our country is bonkers? Because if that is all they know, do not blame the child if the child suffers from a crisis of identity, because nobody wants to feel like the person I am is rubbish. You see, when Obama became president of the United States, you saw lots of Black people. You know, they raised their shoulders. You saw those images of people who go to the White House and cry. Why are they crying? They are crying because it is a rewriting of history, that the lie they told us is not true. We can have a Black person who can be this, you know, successful. He can be the president. We belong here. I remember the very old woman who went and was dancing. She was a very short old woman. You know, Obama is very tall. But you could see, you could see the passion. Me, myself, on the day Obama was elected, I wore full African outfit to work. And my colleague asked me why. I said, because we are now ruling the world. So what do you mean? I said, didn't you hear that my brother won the United States of America? A Black man is, the American president is the most powerful person in the world. So we are now ruling the world. So I wore complete African outfit. How many times do you make a statement to demonstrate who you are? Because your child sees it. I remember that time, my child was that young. He's 23 now. He was young then. But I will make him listen to some of the things, the debates. I say, do you see that's a Black man? You see? How much do you tell your children about the success of Black people? Or is all they hear how they kill people in Nigeria, you know, how they thief, you know, the country no go better, now God cause us. Because if that's all you say, that is all they will hear. So I'll tell you the story of one of my students when I was in Aberystwyth, Yoruba boy. That boy refuses to go to Nigeria because he says, if you go home, you will just die. They will just kill you. Where did he get that? He was born here. He got it from his parents who told him that the moment you step home, I'm not talking of people shooting you, it's witchcraft and this one and that one and that one. So he sensed, so in fact, he changed his name. His name is Sheun. He calls himself Sean. That tells you how much he lacks confidence in who he is. And so what do we hear? We hear something now that is really ravaging our society here in the UK. Black men, mental health. It's a big issue. And a lot of it is about figuring out, you know, this mismatch between who they think they are and their place in society. And we all struggle with it. I struggle with it. Okay, sometimes when I have conversation, my son will tell me, I'm like, oh, okay, is that how you understood it? That's not how I understood it. This is how I understood it. But I think we owe it to ourselves to learn more about our culture, learn more about our history, so that we can give our children a positive image of themselves, give them positive icons to look at and to aspire to. In the UK here, there are so many Black people who've done so many successful things. Let them see those people. What I tell my son is, I say, listen, yes, our societies are not industrially as developed, but look at all the fantastic things we do. We are people who love other people. You know, Africans love other people. We have families who care about each other. I remember one time a colleague of mine told my son that Africans are not very good at charity because, you know, they do these charity runs and people sign and whatever, that we don't do a lot of it. So my son came and said, oh, that Africans were not very good at charity. So I said, let me tell you, African charity. We don't put 50p or £1 and say that is charity. Let me tell you the African charity. I say in African charity, your brother's child is your child. Your sister's child is your child. If your brother cannot send them to school because they are not financially able, you will share your own salary as a matter of duty and pay that child's school fees. I said, so it's not £1. That's why we don't run, because our charity is not £1. And I gave him examples. And then you could see him swelling up, you know, as you're telling him, you know, like, yeah, you know, we do that, don't we? Yeah. What do we tell our children? When they come and challenge us about how we are failing as Africans, what is the counter narrative we tell them? Because unless we give them a counter narrative that is positive. Another example, he was primary 6. They were doing school play. Scrooge was the play. And then they did this video where they sang this song. Do they know it's Christmas time at all? You know, There will be no snow or whatever in Africa this Christmas time. But what really pained my son then was all the images of the people who were poor were Black people. So he challenged his teacher and said he's not acting again. He was Ebenezer Scrooge, that he's not acting. He came home and told me he's not acting. I said, why? He said, because they just make only Black people look like they are poor people. But there are poor people here. There are people who are eating school meals here. He's not eating school meals. But there are children in his class who are eating school meals. So why do they always say there's only Black people that are poor? Then he started talking about, so in the end, the school actually changed that collage. And they put poor people from everywhere, Black, white, everywhere. That is a child who is beginning to learn who he is. Thankfully, when he went to university, he carried on. He was president of the African ACS, Afro-Caribbean Society, did vice and all of that. Because it was something that, because I know that as a Black man, if you are not careful, if they lose their sense of identity, that is when they begin to go and find subcultures in which they feel like respect is about doing some funny kind of things that will give them respect. Our dressing, we have fantastic clothes. How many times do we dress our children in? Because identity is not just about it's your name, it's how you talk, it's the culture that you carry with you, it's the clothes that you wear. Let us begin to make our children feel comfortable in their own skin early on. Let us begin to engage them in a sense of who they are. Let us begin to give them, I'm not saying lie to them about the challenges we face. No. Tell them the challenges we face, but tell them also the why. Tell them that, yes, our democracies are young. It's just 62 years old. These ones are 300 years. Even the ones that are 300, don't you see some of the crisis happening? We are growing. Look at all the things that have happened so far. This is where we will go. And you are part of that. You have to contribute to it. Let them still feel a sense of purpose, a sense of ambition about the countries they come from and what they can do with it. Otherwise, this crisis of identity and mental conflict about who they are and the slow degeneration into illegal activities will continue. So in summary, I think let me try it because I don't want this to go too long. I guess all I'm saying is it is really important, this topic, and we as parents, we as the older generation, we have a lot to play in how our children perceive themselves. And perhaps we need to work on ourselves first about who we think we are and who we believe we are. What are the messages that we are sending subliminally to our children that they are picking up from us? Because if we make them feel confident about themselves, then they will be able to navigate better that conflict that they face in school and the societies that they will then go into. So I think I will stop there. Thank you all very much. Thanks, Harry, for time.
Oh, thank you so much, Ma. Much appreciated. You actually took another angle of it. I wasn't expecting to hear all you said in terms of the conflict that the children are also battling with, which is quite true. There will be something in the house and also be something in the school, but at least if they are very confident in who they are at home, I think they will also take that out as well. So thank you so much for that contribution, and it's well said. Please, does anyone have any question, any contribution, anything you want to say in regards to what the Prof have said? Today's topic is cultural identity and diaspora, and we picked this topic to celebrate Black History Month, which we're in. So if there's any contribution, raise of hand and I will allow you to speak. And as I will always have question for the speaker before she leaves us. So if you have any question, please ask. And my question will go to her as well. And the question will be, Ma, what measure do you think we will take or we should use generally to cut down the mental issue that is going on? I will relate it to identity personally because of the topic that I was saying, but I know there are other issues that can cause mental health issue, depression, name it, and that leads to suicide. What measures do you think we will take relating it to identity?
No, I think, hands up, first of all, I'm not a mental health specialist. I'm a lawyer. I know nothing about mental health per se. But it is something that we've had to deal with a lot at university these days, because a lot of young people are having those challenges. And I think what I want to say is that first and foremost, you know, and that's why I said identity is who you are. If you are in conflict about who you are, and I know in this society, for instance, you have people where they talk about, I don't feel comfortable in my own skin, perhaps in my gender, for instance. If you are in conflict about who you are, or if you feel that you are inferior to somebody else, and therefore you are trying to be like them, you can never be somebody else that you are not. So that mental, if you like, contortion that people do, you talk one way when you are with certain people, you talk another way when you are with certain people, you try and eat certain foods when you are with certain people, that constant back and forth, and that conflict in and of itself, we have been told, creates crisis of identity, and that crisis of identity can lead to mental health issues. Okay, so from my perspective, being secure in who you are is the first step. And being secure in who you are, as I said, it's not just about your color, it's about everything else, you know, around you that surrounds that color, the food, the clothes, how you talk, how you greet, how your parents treat you in front of your friends. You know, those little things, because it's not how we talk to our children or how we expect them to behave that other parents expect theirs to behave. You know, so what I think is we can help along the way. I agree with you. There are other things, there are people who have so many other pressures around them, but that confidence in who you are can be what gives you resilience to deal with all the other issues that may also come along your way. So if you don't have that resilience in the first place, if you don't have that confidence in the first place, and you're trying to become something else, that crisis in and of itself can be debilitating, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you so much. I think the take-home message is for us to be who we are. And that's our identity, from the food, from the clothes, from everything that we do. Let's try and be who we are, just to reduce what would trigger any kind of stress. Because if you're comfortable in eating your kind of food, you'll be content with what you have eaten for that day and be proud to tell anybody, this is what I've eaten and that is what we eat. And I will leave it at that. And I also want to say thank you, Prof. I know you're very busy. Thank you for being here. You want to say something?
Very quickly, I saw a question in the chat box. Sorry, just force of habit. I always check the chat box because when I teach with students, I do. I just saw something there. Somebody asked whether identity is fixed, whether it can be in a state of flux. I think identity is fixed. Who you are is who you are. That doesn't mean that you do not grow. And that doesn't mean that you do not take in aspects of things that you see that are good, that can make you a better person. Okay? So when I say this is who I am, it doesn't mean that from the day I was born till the day I will die, there will be nothing that I'll change about my personality. Okay? So if I find, for instance, that, I don't know, Eba is causing too much fat for me, I can begin to eat more vegetables so that I can lose weight. Yeah, cultural, that's a cultural, your food. But it is not because I think Eba is so bad, because that's different. It's how you think about it. The clothes I wear, okay, if I feel like, oh, I'm going to wear a pantsuit somewhere because I think I'm going to look smarter in that or whatever, not because I think African clothes is shameful, you cannot wear an African outfit somewhere. Okay, so it is that I'm talking about. So it's not so much that you do not take on characteristics of the place you are, because by nature human beings, we grow and we're all meant to grow. But in that growth, you should have a rootedness that centers you so that you know why you are taking on what you're taking on, rather than becoming something else because you are wrong in the first place. And the lack of identity is that feeling that you are wrong in the first place. So you need to be something else rather than I am fine, but there are aspects of this that I can change. Yeah, that can make me better. So for instance, I do not advocate that we just keep knocking our children's head because that's how our own heads were knocked. Yeah. So we stop that, but we take the element of discipline your child. So how better can I, what are the other ways in which I can discipline my child that is not abusive? And we learn that. So I can take that on without feeling like the essence of discipline in my culture is fundamentally wrong. Does that make sense? So.
Thank you so much. I was just checking in the chat if that message was here, but it's not. I think it was a direct message to you. So if there's any, yeah, because I'm also looking at the chat. Somebody's hand is up. Yeah, I'll give you the opportunity to ask your question. Unmute yourself, please, and ask the question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ma. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, listening to you, I kind of feel as parents, we really have a lot to do. A lot. This has really opened my eyes to many things. Even from my past experience, I could actually see through what you are really saying. You know, I could remember at one time at the uni, I wore my traditional attires, like especially on Fridays. And a friend was like, "Why are you wearing this kind of a thing?" And I was like, I'm like, I feel comfortable wearing it. And for the fact I'm here, it shouldn't make me to change some of the things I'm doing and all of that, you know. And based on also what you have said, I could also remember like a lesson we need to learn from Michael Jackson. You know, he tried to change his color, his nose, even though he was doing so well. And so many other Black people in musicians can look through, you know, their life and, you know, they couldn't really fit, you know, but they were doing so well. So I feel as parents, we really have a lot to do, especially when I go to pick my children from school. I see how the Asians, their children as in speak their language, you know, they wear their hijab, you know, and all of that. But as Black people, do we really do this? Another aspect that I'm looking at, I've been like trusting God and hoping that I will also improve is my language. You know, myself and my husband, we speak the same language, but every time we are speaking one English, from one English to the other. You know, so as parents here, as young people still coming up, one of the things I noticed, and I keep telling younger people that are getting married, start speaking your language early. You know, when you get married, if people are the same language, discuss this thing. Which language will you be speaking? Even if you are different language, teach your children these two languages, they will understand. But we didn't settle that one earlier enough, you know. So it was like when the children, like my daughter was already 3 and speaking, and I was like, we now realize, you know, and all of that. But we really have a lot to do as parents. And this is what one of the things I want to contribute. Thank you, Ma.
Oh, thank you so much.
And if
Pete.
there's more suggestion, you know, I will take it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Peace. Contribution. Auntie Kate's hand is up as well. Over to you, Ma. You're muted. Okay,
yes. I think, Peace, you've just thrown in something big here. I was just about to go because I'm running late, but I couldn't, you know, I couldn't kind of ignore, you know, contributing to what you said about our children. Yes, it is true. We find both parents speaking the same language, and yet we end up speaking English when the children are there. You know, which this is why, you know, at the initial question that that Irene asked, you know, who are we to blame with regards to, you know, bringing up the children here and as their parents? And I still stand by that because, I mean, when I got married, both of us, myself, my late husband, we speak the same language. And we still ended up speaking English to our children, and none of my children speak my language. And that really hurts me to today, you know. And so what I did was that I said to myself, you know what? when my grandchildren are living quite close to me, I would speak my language to them and see if I can go through that, to bring them up to pick up our language. And this I'm doing, but it's not as effective as I would have loved it. If their parents were speaking my language, it would have been easy because they pick up something from me. I don't live with them, and then maybe next time, she, picks it up. She speaks obviously English with their parents, so that whatever I teach her, it stays there until when I meet her again. But if the parents were speaking the same language, then they would have been speaking it. By the time I come back to visit, it would have been just a conversation. So I would always say, oh, you remember that what we said last time? Oh, you remember? But if I had done what I should do, when I was bringing their parents up, they would have been speaking the language, it would have been easier. So it's a big thing. And I don't know why it's happening to Africans only, because in fact, when I talk about Africans, not all Africans, because in Nigeria, the Yorubas speak Yoruba to their children. They pick up that language more than the Igbos. The Igbos are to English, we speak, that English continuously. And then also the Ghanaians, they speak Ghana to their children. They pick up that Ghana language. Some of them actually send the children home for them to learn the culture and so forth and come back here, which obviously I did with my eldest son, who went home to Nigeria and can speak the language. Although now I'm speaking English all the time to him. Again, I've got myself to blame. So really it's a, I don't know to call it hard work, but it's not hard work, but it's a mountain that we need to climb. We need to climb that mountain. I don't know why the Indians, they speak so fluently. And here we've got a large families of Turkish, and they all speak, Turkish, and they speak their English. And we've got them all in the council there. They are council leaders and so forth. They were born here. They speak their language, they speak English, and they are their leaders. It's not like they have forgotten that they weren't able to learn that English. So I don't know how we can bring this back. We really need to look at it. Prof, I think we've got a long way, a hard work to do, honestly speaking. Because if we can get the family back to be speaking their language to their children, and as they grow, they will grow with it. Then how did the Indians do it? And they're still doing it. How did the other Turkish, even the Somalians, they're all doing it.
Even the Chinese as well.
Yes. And so it seems like it's the West Africa, the West Africa that are not able to, speak fluently, or what is being proud, or we don't have enough time. I don't know what it is, but it's for me, I failed my children.
Thank you for being sincere with that contribution. I personally, I speak Igbo at home, and my kids are already picking it up. I can remember I was telling the little one Bia, and the Jesse, which is 4, said, Mommy said Bia. So he's picking it up, which I will encourage every other person to start. I was even thinking to do a project for competition for any child that can speak fluently and give a prize. Maybe that will also encourage parents to teach their children their language. I saw a child born in Italy and he was speaking Edo, Benin fluently as well. So I think maybe with conversation like this, people will get to start talking and see reason why their children should speak their language. Chinese are doing it, Turkish people are doing it, Indians, you can't take that away from them. And I don't know why Africans felt like if you teach them your language, they will not learn English properly. And other countries, they are doing it both, and they can speak English fluently when they go to school as well. Prof, do you have anything to say the way you're looking at me?
I mean, I'm a failure here as well. Actually started the first 2 years of my child's life, I didn't speak English to him. He spoke my language fluently. It was the first language he heard and spoke. And then, but I am not from the same tribe as my husband. And then I left him for a while, about 7 months. I went to do something. And by the time I came back, he'd forgotten every single word. And since then, it has been a struggle. He still understands, but he refuses to speak. And he's a man now, so there's not much I can do. But back to why we don't speak our language. Again, it's back. I mean, I don't know. We say it's research, but the research shows that it's part of post-colonialism. how we perceive ourselves. This idea that when our children speak very good English, then they are smart kids. It is why when we come here, the first thing some of us do or our children do is that we change completely our accent. I mean, yes, if you live in a place for a long time, after some time, there'll be changes in your intonation. But when you completely change, what are we telling the child? We're telling the child that this is how it is to be. So I think it goes back to pride. It goes back to pride in our own language. Are we proud of it? If we are, then we will try. But it's hard, but we can try. And especially when we're in the diaspora, like Auntie Kate was saying, maybe it's about finding ways in which we form communities that can make these things, happen, a little bit better than we are doing it on our own. Because it's hard when you're doing it on your own, especially when you're not in a community. So.
Okay, thank you. We have a lot to do then, collectively. Over to you, Esther. Thank you for that contribution. Over to you, Esther. Rounding off, we're supposed to be
Yes.
we're supposed to leave at 7:30, so we'll push it to like 10 minutes after. So over to you, Esther, please.
Thank you so much, my prof and my former mayor.
Can I
my
say sorry to
mother.
interrupt you all? I have to leave.
Oh, thank you so much, Ma. Thank you.
You, Ma.
You stay
Thank
to
you
the
so
end.
much.
I appreciate you, Ma. Thank you.
Thank
so
you,
much.
Mama. Have a good
Bye-bye.
evening.
Thank you,
Have
Mom.
a good evening, Ma.
What I wanted to just add real quickly was just to say, yes, the post-colonial effect of what's happened to us is we think when you're light-skinned it's better. When you're more fluent in English than your own language is more viable, more profitable for us. They really did a great job at, when you want to destroy something, you start from what makes you who you are. And believe it or not, language is such a powerful tool. Because when you know a language, you know the nuances, you know what things mean, like Jack in the Box. Somebody might say from England, and I'll be like, what? Did you put Jack inside a box? Do you know, it might be totally alien to me because I'm not English, not born English. I'm actually African. It's my heritage, it's in my blood, it's in my DNA. So I cannot recommend enough, Irene, that concept you have to actually award children for being fluent in the language. I will partner with you. Whatever you raise, I'm saying I'm not gonna match it, but I'm gonna support it. Okay. Whatever is the price, because let's get that pride back in our language. And once you know the language, like I said, the language is the culture. It tells you all the secrets, all the strengths, all the things that no one can just say. Like I can't even articulate in words, So I want to say I'm very proud to be here with my Igbo hairstyle, which is native to my tribe, and I know this is recorded and it's gonna go wherever. I don't mind. And I want to say, let's keep repping this. Let's keep building that dignity back, that respect back. And God bless everyone involved in this work. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Oh, thank you, Esther. Thank you so much for that contribution. And as I said, we're wrapping up. Today's topic again is cultural identity and diaspora. We've heard a lot of inspirational and educative words today to take home. I've learned a lot as well. And I really want my kids to know how to speak a language from Nigeria. I'm not Igbo, but because I can speak Igbo and my husband speaks Igbo, I felt like we should come to one. I know that they said they can learn 3 or 4 languages as kids, but I said, let's just deal with one. And as I can see now, they're already picking how to speak Igbo. And Esther, as you said, it's something that we need to work on. Let's encourage more families, more children to pick up their language. And we will not fail in our time. I know, Esther, even your kids are not speaking your language. So even if you want to champion the course, it's also a good one so that we...
No, I started paying £10 for them to go and do Igbo lessons. Although we stopped for now, but we'll continue again.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. And for me, I still believe that it's still not late, no matter the age range, because people go to school to learn French, because I actually want to learn how to speak French. So no matter the level that they are, I still know someone in London that just started an Igbo school as well and wants to take up more children so that they can speak Igbo. And it's applicable to everyone. But for us starting now, let's try and inculcate that in our children so that even if the food they are losing food. At least they shouldn't lose their language. As we said, culture comprises of a lot of things. So let's keep the language with our children. As we round up, first of all, I want to say thank you for everyone that have joined. Thank you, Prof, for staying still till this time. And thank you to our former mayor who just left us. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I appreciate you all. Before we go, I would like to spin the names of the persons that answered the question of what's your identity. So I'll be sharing my screen shortly just to see who the lucky winner will be. So yeah, then we'll take it from there. And the next session will be in 2 weeks' time. The topic will be shared on all our platforms. And yeah, this will go until December. Before now, this project was sponsored by the Big Lottery Fund. The funding has ended, but I thought there is need for us to continue looking at what's going on in our community, increase in mental health issue, and also to suicide rates. And with conversation like this, we hope we'll be able to change people's perspective of how they see things and getting to believe in themselves. That's actually why I picked this topic to celebrate Black History Month. Yes, so now I'm about to spin the names. These are people that answered questions at the beginning. And let's see who the lucky winner is. Congratulations to Anaya. So Anaya is the winner. Anaya, we owe you a hair bonnet. Congratulations.
Ooh, wow.
So I'm going to post you a hair bonnet, Anaya. Congratulations, congratulations. Once again, I want to say thank you all for joining. We appreciate you all. And we'll call it a day. Officially, we'll end the Zoom. But if you want to chill with me this weekend, you can still be here. So let me end